Welcome to Scorched Earth. This is going to be a general reading for the sign of Capricorn, Sun, Moon and Ascendant for the month of March. It is the second time I've tried to record this video because the first time I just tripped over my mouth so much I couldn't even get my words out. We are obviously in the middle of a retrograde, and to make things 1,000 times worse, it's happening in Pisces season, which is one energy that I really just struggle with. I'm a Leo stellium, like, it kind of puts me out a little bit, has me drifting in some sort of weird dream state that I just cannot even, it's the honest truth, right? But I'm going to try and persevere. Hopefully I can get it out this time. So, can I have 3 cards, please, for Capricorn? Whoa. So, the High Priestess is flipped there, which is the card of Pisces, and Death, which is the card of Scorpio. I'm not going to take either of them, because they jump. I have 3 cards for Capricorn, please. There's the first one, which is the 8 of Wands. That's a card of Sagittarius in the Minor Arcana. It talks about swift incoming communication. 2 more cards for Capricorn, please. There's that one. Well, got the 6 of Cups. That's interesting. One more card for Capricorn, please. And we've got the Page of Wands. That's fascinating. On the bottom of the deck, we have the 6 of Wands. That's nice. It's a card of Leo, but it talks about conspicuous public success, right? It's the shadow card. It's the theme. It's the underlying theme for the reading, right? Gives you a base to start interpreting the whole reading from, I guess. Tell me about this 8 of Wands, please. What's this 8 of Wands here? Page of Swords. Air energy. Just in the deck here, we've got the 8 of Cups is flipped. So you moved away from something, left something behind. Another one for the 8 of Wands, please. Eight of Wands. So here, ooh. Got the Emperor, which is a card of Aries. But I feel like it's an energy for you, actually. Why is the 6 of Cups here? Whoa. The Moon. It's a card of Cancer for me in the Major Arcana. For some people, apparently it's Pisces, but not for me. So, there you go. 6 of Cups, please. Why is the 6 of Cups here for Capricornius? The Sun. That's very interesting. I might pull another card or 2 for that. And the Page of Wands. Why is the Page of Wands here, please, for Capricorn? We've got the Chariot, another card of Cancer. And one more card, please, for the Page of Wands. Why is the Page of Wands here? Knight of Wands. Oh, that's interesting. The same card is at the bottom of the deck here as was the first time I tried to do this reading, which is the 7 of Pentacles. The 7 of Pentacles talks about taking a sit rep, essentially. You know, it's being a 7. It talks about a lot of resources of some description having gone into a situation. Right, and they can be emotional resources, they can be physical resources like money, or they can be energetic resources of some description, right? Effort, care, time, that sort of thing. But with the 7, it's a case of kind of looking at the situation and seeing if it is worth continuing investing in the way that you have done previously. Because we see this dude here, he looks kind of sad. And in the properly coloured cards, in the original, in the Centennial, you'll see, like, some of these leaves are a little bit brown. Right? And the idea is that there's a bit of a blighted harvest here. So does he continue? Does he just put a little more care, effort, attention, resources into this situation? Or does he divest entirely, right? Pluck it out, burn it, probably, because it might have an insect infestation or something. Clean the soil, till it over again, and plant something new. It's going to be a setback for a while, but it's a card of cutting your losses, potentially, or at least the preliminary stage of working out whether cutting your losses is a good thing or not. Now I finally got that out of the way. The first card that you've got, which is in your kind of recent past, touching on your present, is the Eight of Wands. And the Eight of Wands talks about fast incoming communication. Right? It's swift. Those wands are in flight, right there. I've always found it interesting that it's a wands card that denotes swift incoming communication, when it's the sword suit that talks about communication of words and talking in verbal and mental expression. Yeah, but it is what it is. It's the Eight of Wands. And the eights talk about material, the material. Quite often they talk about prosperity and material success. And I find it interesting that it's come out with the Seven of Pentacles, because the feeling that I'm getting off this card is more of the same. There's a sense of a new direction. You've been looking at a new direction. You know, it's more sit rep energy, but this is throwing out feelers. This is throwing out communication to other people, to see what's out there, to see how you can change the situation that you're currently sitting in. Because you're Capricorn, because you are earth energy, you're fairly slow, but you are a cardinal sign. So whereas, someone like Taurus would be inclined to dig their heels in and become very obstinate and stubborn and refuse to move because they're fixed, or Virgo, which would, overanalyze the shit out of the situation, it seems like you've actually taken quite a balanced position here. You're looking at your existence, you're looking at all the things that you want to change, you're looking at all the things that you've put lots of effort into, and you're trying to decide what is the most efficient, way of spreading out your resources. I've forgotten the word I was looking for. Distributing your resources. And there's a sense here of you throwing out feelers, and maybe you're looking for a new job. That's possible. Maybe it's just more of a general life thing, Maybe you've hit that kind of rather cliched, kind of midlife crisis point, and maybe you're assessing everything. You're seeing where you are compared to where you thought you would be and where you want to be, and seeing if all of those things can actually kind of align, because there's an alignment here of wands. Yes, they're going in opposite directions, but they're like, none of them are going to crash into each other. They're kind of slotting in quite nicely. And it's clarified by the Page of Swords and the Emperor. Now, the Page of Swords is supposed to be a messenger, yeah. But I kind of see I feel like that's a really flat base for looking at the energy of the Page of Swords, right? Because it's a page, so he's at the lowest echelon of the court hierarchy. And he's this depiction of the Page of Swords, more than any, kind of gives me a sense of kind of lofty ideas of great thinking and stuff like that. But it's a sense of thinking a little bit more creatively about your situation, about where you are, about the circumstances that you find yourself in, or you have found yourself in, because this is kind of the recent past. Because air and fire together are a really good combination. Like, that can build into something really big. And it seems like you're employing just the right amount of, passion certainly, but creative thinking combined with great analytical thinking right here. Combining it together to come out with the Emperor. Now, the Emperor is, you know, he's got a whole empire to run. He talks about strategy. He talks about careful, deliberate movements forwards, because for all he's the card of Aries, and so he depicts a certain amount of, you know, or he indicates a certain amount of fire, he's quite static as positioned here, right? There are small movements going on here, not big ones, right? You have not thrown all your chips up in the air just to see where they land. I mean, I can't imagine Capricorn doing that ever anyway. And there's no tower here, you know, there's no sudden, shocking, catalyzing event. Death is not here, you know, all of these kind of things. This is a slow realization that you aren't necessarily entirely happy where you are and you want to shift things around, right? Maybe you're not quite as in charge of your shit as you would like to be, and you would like to shift that around. This is quite a dominant energy. But like I said, it is static, right? He's got his armour on, he's fought to be where he is, and now he wears the finery of you know, somewhere befitting his station, somebody possibly in peacetime, right? But the armour's still there because he could still go and fight if he wanted to. But at this point, he has got armies to do his bidding for him, right? He's got pages. He's got lots of other things as well. And he's kind of looking sideways at the page, and the page is looking sideways as well. I feel like these are small movements, deliberate, well thought out, with a creative base, that you're moving in the direction of, to try and bring some stability into your life. You know, stability of direction as well. But then we come to the present, and what we've got is the Six of Cups. Now, this is a Scorpio card, but it talks about, well, for some people it talks about children. Maybe you have children, and maybe there's a situation involving your children that you're dealing with at the moment. That's possible. But for me, it's a card of the past, right? So that can stretch back as far as past lives, and it can indicate for me soulmates and stuff like that. Or we can bring it a little bit further in, and it can talk about your childhood, you know, things from your childhood. Or we can bring it forward a little further still, and it can just be any past situation. But it's here, and it's in your current energy, and you're mulling on it. And you might be having sentimental thoughts about the past. You might be having sentimental thoughts about your childhood. That's possible. Like I said, you might be dealing with children. But there's a certain nostalgia with this card that I always feel. And it's interesting that it's come up with the sun and the moon, or the moon and the sun rather, in that direction, because they feel like two sides of the same coin, right? The moon, for me, it talks about things that are hidden. It talks about things that are obscured. It can talk about secrets. But for me, personally, as a reader, this card always talks about your inner world. It talks about your subconscious or your non-conscious, as I saw it referred to in a book the other day. Right. It talks about those things that are underneath, and the things that are possibly what drive you, that you actually aren't even necessarily aware of, right? So we've got this crayfish coming up out of the water. And that is the stuff that's in the dark. It's the stuff that you're not aware of. You know, you try looking into water on a moonlit night and see how far down you can see. You can't. You know, it could be a foot deep. It could be 100 feet deep. You don't know. And this crayfish is scuttling out of there, and in between these two dogs. Right? So they're not two dogs. One is a dog. One is a wolf. So we've got the tame and the wild part of your personality, right? Duality. And it's headed off on this path towards mountains. And that usually indicates for me adversity of some description, certainly challenges anyway. But when the moon comes up, it talks about things that are hidden that need to come up, right? Subconscious drivers that need exposing to the sunlight so that they stop driving you, right? So that's subconscious fears, that's old wounds, that's all of those kind of things, you know, stuff that you repress all the time. Possibly from an age where you didn't even realize that that's what you were doing, right? And that can be talking about there. But then we've got the Sun, and that's the card of Leo, right? And it is for me the card of the inner child, right? Because someone does not maintain this level of joy and this level of innocent enjoyment of the world as an adult. I don't know if I said that. Without doing some really careful inner work, right? Because as we get older, we get jaded. We do, you know, life experiences disappoint us or hurt us or those things, and we pile layers of crap on top of this child because we do not see the value of that child anymore. Now, somebody who's been through a lot of stuff and has turned and faced their demons has actually started a process of excavation, and they start pulling all those layers of crap back off that child, right? To see who they should have been before all of these, you know, life experiences made things hard for them. And once they get there, they are able to experience innocent, peaceful joy. Yeah? Taking joy in the small things. It's clean. There's nothing hidden. The interesting thing about these two coming up together is that despite this being an inner child, for me, the Sun is very external and kind of masculine, and the Sun is internal and feminine. Right? You know, we're talking about a balancing of energies. We're talking about an incorporation, actually, because look at these two big celestial bodies up in the sky here, right? It feels like you're kind of pulling these together. I feel like the month of March is going to involve some fairly serious introspection for you, and it's possible that it's just on your past. You're just mulling over things that have happened and you know how you really feel about them, and trying to process them into such a way that you don't repress the feelings that come up as a result. You let them sit out in the open. Or we could be going back to childhood, right? I mean, if you want to go further back still, maybe some of you are going for past life regressions and stuff like that, and that's how you're seeking to incorporate. That's possible. That's not going to be all of you. For others of you, it's going to feel like it's an analysis of your childhood. And the funny thing is that it's come off the back of this, you trying to control your life better. It's conscious control. Right? Maybe you've become aware that the captain of your ship is actually your subconscious desires and fears and all that kind of thing. And actually you're kind of a bit sick of being guided that way. You know, it's very reactive, that kind of behavior, instead of being active. And the emperor considers everything and then he acts. He rarely reacts because he's such an excellent strategist, right? He's going to have seen, you know, armies advancing and people trying to come and invade his fucking kingdom, you know, like he's on the ball. He knows all of these things, right? So these little subtle shifts that you've been making to try and improve your life that kind of lead you slap bang to this, right? And this is kind of heavy work. I'm going to put another couple of cards because I'm kind of interested. Something like the moon and the sun. Why is the moon and the... It's the slowest slide out ever. About the moon and the sun. Maybe the moon and the sun. Yeah. Okay. So the three cards that come out are the hanged one, or the hanged man, as it is in a standard deck. Right? That's the card of Pisces for me. It could refer to Pisces season, which we're in currently, and we'll be in for most of March. But it talks about a change in perspective, right? Hanging yourself upside down from the tree of knowledge, as Odin did for 9 days. You know, it's a bump of blood to the head, that you don't usually get, but it's a voluntary undertaking of a change in perspective in order to achieve more wisdom. And then we have the King of Swords. Now, the King of Swords can indicate an air sign, so Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, strictly Aquarius. But it can indicate an energy of mental agility, right? It can indicate an energy of thinking, certain kind of not mental gymnastics. I would say it was mental gymnastics if it was that way around, because there's a certain pejorative kind of feel to that sort of phrase. But there's a dexterity of thinking that comes with the King of Swords, right? And when you combine these two together here, this is, through a new perspective, gaining new wisdom. And then there's this chap here who looks like he's now consciously processing that, intellectually processing that, in order to maybe carry on the work of the Emperor here and drive it forwards. Because then the final card that we've got is the Six of Cups. This column of cards started with the Six of Cups and it ends with the Six of Cups. There's a cyclical kind of feel to this. It feels like you're doing some deep inner work and you're learning some things about yourself. You're learning some things about the way you work internally. And there's quite a lot of freedom and enjoyment there. It's gentle, Whereas this one seems quite nostalgic, and it looks like a look back, in your mind's eye, in your memory of what it is. And we run through the moon and we run through the sun, and then we get this change of perspective and the wisdom that comes with it, and then this conscious processing of it, this intellectual processing of it, that brings you out here, right? And this is just a little bit more playful. Playful isn't a word that's often associated with Capricorns. But nevertheless, there it is, and there they are. Now, the final card that you've got, the final main card, is the Page of Wands. And I find it really interesting that we've got this playful energy that we've ended on here, and then we've got the Page, right? And for me, that's the card of Sagittarius, but it's kind of like a fire wild card, really. But more than that, it is an energy. And it's an energy of a fresh start in some way. And I like this, because it's a much lighter energy than, say, we've got with the Page of Swords, we've got with the Emperor, we've got with the Moon, the Hanged Man, right? There's a naivety, there's an innocence to this card. But there's a thirst for experience, there's a thirst for broadening horizons that come with it, right? All of the pages, like I said, they're messengers, they have jobs to do and stuff. They're relaying messages between the different courts. But this one for me, and I've always felt this really strongly, cares a little less about the job that he has to do and a little more about what he gets to see while he's doing that job, right? Because he's fire. He's low level, but he wants to get out there and he wants to experience the world. He wants to see what the world has to offer. He wants to smell things. He wants to taste things. He wants to touch things, new things, right? It's all about being hungry for experience. And here we are, right? And you could argue that it's a step down from, say, the King of Swords, and definitely from the Emperor. But it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a new, not just new opportunities for new experiences, but a new openness to opportunities and new experiences. Like maybe you've been a bit tied up in your work. Maybe there's just been life stuff that's really been getting you down. But this is a month of some really serious inner contemplation and a lot of work to move through and process old issues in order that you might be liberated enough to be able to kind of skip forwards on a new start and allow yourself to be excited about things again. Yeah? He's positively fizzing with anticipation, this page. I love it. And then we have these two cards here. Yeah, we've got the Chariot and we've got the Knight of Swords. No, we haven't. We've got the Knight of Wands. Now, like I said, the Chariot is the card of Cancer, and it talks about self-determination, right? In the proper sense. It talks about self-governance. It talks about everything to do with the self. It also talks about duality, which is interesting, because where the moon talks about duality, but there's a certain confusing aspect to it, because it's in the dark, and it's obscured, and you have to go looking for it, and not everything is illuminated. You know, there's this kind of dreamlike quality to it. The Chariot is very much in the sunshine, right? Every aspect of everything can be perceived, and you know, you can see that this chap is covered with astrological symbols, and yeah, there's no detail of any of that that's obscured anywhere. Right, but it talks about duality, because we've got these two beasts down here. We've got these two sphinxes, right? And in order to move forwards, this charioteer, who does not have any reins, has to control these beasts with just the power of his mind, right? And it's talking about like micro adjustments, right? But balanced energy moving these two forwards, because if they're not in complete alignment, they're going to go off in different directions, and he's not just going to stop. He's actually, his whole chariot's going to tumble, and he's going to fall out. You know, it's a card of great mental discipline and power, and it's cool because that's something that you associate with the Emperor. Right? It's almost like you allow yourself a little gap in the month of March, you know, to stop trying to rule your kingdom, stop trying to move relentlessly forwards and all that, to take a little bit of time to reflect, a little bit of time to maybe even kind of grow up by going backwards. You know, maybe you can see aspects from your childhood in different lights now. That's possible. Because you've reached that level of maturity, you can look back and view it as an adult looking back, rather than as an adult but having a child's response to something that's in there. Because that's the other thing, that things that are stuck in our subconscious do. You know, we're unable to respond to it at the right level. We're always responding to it as the child we were when those things happened. But this is like taking all of that together, and it's driving forwards, you know, with victory, frankly. You know, great determination, an improved sense of self, and hugely balanced. You know, I see the moon on his, he's got two moons on it. I don't know, they're called epaulets or something. I think those are the things that sit on the shoulders, but he's got these crescent moons here. And it's almost like you've got in touch with, because you've done this work here, you've got in touch with your intuition a little bit more. It's funny, it's like there's a softening of you combined with a great toughening of spirit as well. But then we've got the Knight of Wands. And the Knight of Wands, sometimes gets a bad rap, and I don't think that is relevant here in this reading, because all of the Wands suit, like I said, they're about living in the moment. Right? That's what fire is. You know, the Pentacles suit, which is your suit, is all about stepped progression. It's about doing things in a prescribed order, you know, in a certain time frame. And for an earth sign, there's no cutting corners, because if you cut corners, what it is that you're trying to grow will not grow successfully. But taking on the energy of this Knight stops you from living quite so far ahead, kind of brings you back here. And of course it's a progression from the page to the Knight. You know, if the page is the new start, if it's the potential for the new start, because let's face it, he hasn't moved anywhere yet. We've got the Chariot, which drives you forwards. Self-governance, self-discipline, understanding of self, great, you know, power over your own mind, control the duality that lives within. And we've got the Knight of Wands, which is a very free energy. It's very liberated. You know, and he is in movement. Like, that horse is moving. But what he's doing is he's going to where the fun is, right? There's an understanding that you need to spend a little less time planning ahead, a little less time Perhaps being focused on your security and your stability. Because I feel like you've got those in hand, right? And so any extra thought given to that is, possibly runs the risk of moving into the self-indulgent a little bit and becoming then almost fearful, must continue to keep working at this thing because something might happen and it might be taken away from me, if I have not planned rigorously enough. Bringing you back here and saying, your life is in front of you right now. Like, you are in it right now. What are you taking from the moment that you're in? Because sometimes you can lose sight of that. Just as fire signs can sometimes be a little bit irresponsible and forget to, kind of plan for the future because they're literally just living in the moment. They're all about what's happening here and now, and the thought of doing things slowly and methodically is actually quite tedious to them. That's their lesson. That's what they need to learn. But equally for you, what you need to learn is to come back here a little bit. Take some appreciation of what's around you. Another card for the night. Everyone's showing here, please. The sun has flipped. And if nothing else, I'm going to take that as confirmation for everything that I've just said, because that is more fire energy. Yeah, we've got the star, sun and the star. There's great healing for you that will be achieved through relinquishing your grasp a little bit. Relinquishing your need to control quite so much. Relinquishing your need for order and rigidity all the time. Like, obviously that's always going to be there. That's a fundamental part of who you are. But you can soften the edges, and you soften the edges by being a little bit more excited about the here and now, being more present, entirely present. Because for me, the sun is entirely present. Now, that's the second time this card has come up for you, right? This is positivity and joy, but it's also very here and now. You only have a few hours a day where the sun is up and you can enjoy it, and then it's gone, right? If you spend all day working, you're only going to get half an hour in the sunshine before the sun sets. Concentrate on being here and now. And then we've got the star, right, which is the card of Aquarius in the major arcana. But it talks about healing. It can talk about hope, and it can talk about faith and all that kind of thing. It's sometimes called the wish card. But the woman depicted in this card is pouring water, which is emotion and feeling, into this pool that's in front of her. And it's funny how the imagery reminds me of, this pool here at the bottom of the moon. Like I said, in the darkness, that could be a foot deep, or it could be 100 foot deep, and it could contain the Loch Ness Monster. You don't know. But here, this woman is filling that pool, and you fill that pool with the experiences of the here and now, the having fun, the lightness of spirit, emotional connection as well. If you've got an Aquarius around you, that might be relevant, or even a Leo, actually. But replenishing your pool and allowing yourself a lightness of spirit will improve your enjoyment of your life no end. I guarantee it. Can I have one more card for that, please? Sun and the star. I'll have a look at that and see what it is. Yeah, see, the Chariot has flipped again. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. This dude, he's in a little, what are they called? A little roundabout. I've completely forgotten. I keep thinking bionicle or chronicle or something like that. It's not. It's a word like that. It's in one of those little roundabouts. It's being pulled by swans. Right. We've got the Chariot there. And that's twice now. And then strength. More fire underneath. Like, more energy of needing to be present in the current, move forwards lightly. Yeah, let some of those corners get rubbed off a little bit. Right, I hope that makes sense to someone, because frankly, I'm just like, I have no idea. But it doesn't need to make sense to me, because I'm just the reader. You know, if it makes sense to you, then that's all good. So I'm going to leave it there, and I hope that I didn't garble too much. I really am suffering in this retrograde Pisces season, double shebang. And I will see you in, I don't know, like maybe 10 days or something for the March mid-month. That seems actually impossible, but it is true. So I love you all. Take care, and yeah, see you soon.